This is AJ here at The Hero Informer, and this entire time with Absolute Flash, we have been led to believe the overall threat was Eleanor Thawne, but no, here we finally get to see the true threat, and yes, it's a Thawne, just Eobard Thawne himself, the Reverse Flash, just in a new monstrous, horrifying form. And you know, recently, just over in Batman, Absolute Joker got revealed and fully shown, and now we're getting Absolute Reverse Flash here. Could you imagine with Superman, we soon see Absolute Doomsday? Like, I'm not even sure how that would even look and how powerful and absurdly broken he would be in his absolute universe form. But a common theme we have been seeing this entire time is Wally here kind of having, you know, out of time moments, seeing the future and past simultaneously with his present, and that is no different from right here. Inside of the energy force, the speed force, or the absolute speed force, whatever is going to be called, he is having a conversation with Barry inside of his head, in which Barry goes on to compare Wally here to a man named Karl Schwarzschild, who, back inside of World War I, he was a German physicist who found first solution to Albert Einstein's gravitational field equations, basically meaning he was super brilliant and smart, but his genius and greatness came at a cost. Barry going on to say that he was damned, and soon after he contracted a terrible illness that eventually ate away at his skin and killed him, a disease. And he is essentially telling Wally that he's the same way, that his great, you know, abilities and what he can do now and the gifts he has, there is a cost to everything, and Barry believes that Wally has become damned as well, which we see him here getting pulled through a portal, which will become very important later on. In which you get to the present, where we see Wally here with his rogues. Now, they're not really technically his rogues, as they have no personal connection to hating him or hunting him down. You know, it's just business. You know, they are contracted by the government and Eleanor Thawne, everything that they're doing there. So Wally was just another contract on their list, or that was before they decided themselves to go rogue and decide to go their own way, which of course they're inviting Wally to come join them. Initially, he isn't happy or joyous to join them, of course, but that is until they mention his father, who they were kind of close to, especially Captain Cold here. And with his father being in a situation he is now in, you know, probably going to be killed, they want to team up and save him, which of course eventually gets Wally on board. Though with them being previous villains and connected to this government organization, of course there's going to be a traitor among them and someone who is going to double cross them, which we go to find out it's actually the trickster, Jesse James, who is quite literally directly live feeding footage in their direct plans to come back and free Wally's dad and whatever have you. And honestly, I've never truly been a fan of the original trickster within the main DC universe. Like, you know, he's okay, I guess, but out of all of Flash's villains, you know, the trickster has never been high up on my list of being super interesting. Yet here, I actually kind of like her. She has a unique design and her abilities are kind of cool, and she definitely hates the other girl member of the team of the rogues, but her being interesting is better than being boring, because as a fictional character, you know, the worst thing you can do is be boring. Like, yeah, you can be bad, but you can be so bad it's good. Yet if you're boring, just nobody cares about you. Another such change like that is, of course, Eleanor Thawne herself, who originally I got wrong. I thought she was a gender-swapped version of Eobard Thawne, but no, she's just Eobard's granddaughter. So still in the family, just not him exactly. But the only reason she even still has Wally's father still alive is because he is essentially bait for not only Wally himself, but the entire team to come back so they can get their hands on him and not have the tech and abilities that the rogues have to get out into the world. But specifically, Wally is the main part in this, because even as she goes on to say that Wally is the key. He's the link between us and our ultimate goal of exploring this untapped energy source, and that Barry Allen's sacrifice will not be in vain. In which even with the rogues, as they are traveling and trying to get back to Project Olympus to save Wally's dad, you know, they're talking about how, you know, he might not even be alive at this point. There's no guarantee that they will keep him alive or have him still be there with everything he knows. But Wally himself is just super disinterested and not really part of anything they are talking about, until he looks over and just sees a glowing sphere in the middle of the room. So, you know, his first instinct is to literally get up and go and touch it. Up to this point, he has seen enough weird stuff where it doesn't really faze him as much anymore, and he's the only one who can truly see it. So as soon as he interacts with it, it not only activates but affects time itself, because like I said, Wally, part of his abilities and power set within this new speed force or whatever it is, he can exist in multiple points in time and experience it all at the same time, as he goes on to see different versions or time displaced other Wallys. In the feedback of all of them experiencing the same things, talking, it just almost drives him insane, which looks crazy to everybody else because they can't even see what he's talking about, until Gorilla Grodd, the little monkey he's been traveling with, and essentially what is his best friend at this point and who can understand him the most, calms him down. And this, of course, is simply because he is slowly getting closer to Project Olympus, where the giant machine and the original portal open to this dimension full of energy. And because they are getting close, just then everything snaps into place. You know, Trickster being, well, a trickster, reveals that she's been a spy, a mole in the group, activating a secure bubble around Wally, specifically as just then Eleanor Thawne blows up their ship from the inside out, wanting to kill everybody and cross two birds with one stone, get Wally back to them and take out all the rest of the boards on the table. Now, of course, it's not just that easy, as they also survive thanks to Grodd himself using some sort of psychic bubble, which I didn't even know he could do, and so did nobody else because that's a surprise to them. But all out battle just starts to break loose. Everybody grabbing their bearings, Trickster trying to capture Wally, etc. Wally's father, of course, almost seeing his son, his 14-year-old son, die in that explosion and scuffle. He pleads again, saying, Eleanor, he's just a boy. But, that isn't exactly truthful because, yes, but he has now become something way more. Eleanor goes on to say that Wally has become the missing link between her grandfather's work and all of Barry Allen's work, too. Even going on to reveal that the entire reason why Barry even befriended Wally was her idea. Barry, being naive, was just kind of manipulated by her to unwillingly enact her plan, and how they lured Wally specifically to become what he is now. Their process needed a sacrifice. Now, originally it was going to be Barry himself, which Eleanor was going to double cross him and get him killed, but once Wally entered the field, it kind of changed everything. Now Wally is that link instead, even as she finally opens the door fully to this unstable dimension of pure energy and power. She goes on to say that this is what Olympus has been all about. Barry Allen and I built a doorway, and Wally West, currently the Flash in this absolute universe, is the key to opening it wide open. With her continuing saying that Barry Allen found a way into the other world, something that we're calling now the Still Point. And to my knowledge, I don't believe there's any other, mainline DC equivalent to the Still Point. Maybe the Still Force, which I doubt, but it's another force like the Speed Force, except it deals with stasis, inertia, entropy. If the Speed Force is all about velocity, the Still Force, as its name pretty obviously suggests, it's the opposite of that. Now, I doubt that's what it's truly referring to here, but it's just something to keep in the back of your mind. But she continues saying, anyway, after Barry Allen died, the doorway snapped shut, and she's been unable to reopen it since. But now with Wally, she sees a way back. Like it or not, Wally has become pivotal to everything she and her grandfather has been working for, which still leaves a problem of course, just getting Wally to Project Olympus and to reopen the portal or whatever she wants him to do. As right now, they have pretty easily detained and beat Trickster here, as it is kind of a 5-on-1. Trickster is good, but she's not that good. But unfortunately for them, and fortunately for Trickster, she wasn't the only one Project Olympus had on payroll, as just then the same creature from before. Heatwave arrives once more, just even bigger and more powerful than before. Now, if this is the same guy or another Heatwave creature, one like him, we're not too sure yet, but he starts attacking and burning everybody here. Wally, of course, thinking that, he beat him before, he drained his power source like he did back in Central City, he could do it again. But the priority is not defeating this villain, no, he's only a distraction. Wally needs to find his dad and save him before he is murdered and taken out by Eleanor herself, so of course Wally races off, unintentionally just playing right into her hands and putting Wally into Project Olympus where she wants him. Now, once more, as you can see a theme here, here's where his time abilities, or a part of his abilities, come into play once more. Because as soon as he arrives into the military outpost and underground base, he starts getting visions or premonitions of not only his past conversations with Barry in his very halls, but some even into the future that, hasn't even happened yet. Ones in the past before he had his abilities, and even ones after where he seemingly had a big battle, is hurt, bruised, and potentially something even happened to his father. Now again, none of that happened in present now, but it just shows a potential future which could be. And just like before, the feedback from having multiple timelines or possible points in time, the feedback just messes with his head, and it's all just overwhelming for Wally, who doesn't even fully understand his powers yet. I mean, neither do we too. It's all confusing and putting the pieces here and there, but potentially everything will be made clear to Wally, and he might even go in a little bit of a training arc. But Trickster finally caught up and escaped the group, and now is here to capture Wally, or more accurately, lead him specifically to where Eleanor wants him inside of the base. As she goes on to tell Trickster to corner him, make him feel threatened, and his powers will lead him and do the rest. Which, on the outside, the rogues are just kind of getting destroyed by Heatwave here. They just don't have enough firepower to put him down, and everything they do have is just getting burned, and even themselves could potentially die if they're not too careful. Well, that is, of course, until it starts raining and thundering and storming, until he's just hit with a ginormous bolt of lightning, which kind of de-transforms him and turns him back into human, as we see Weather Wizard joining back up with the rogues, who also probably wants revenge on Project Olympus, and will most likely join the team here to add into their ranks. But again, because Wally here is so close to Project Olympus and the swirling massive energy in the portal being semi-open, the time part of his power starts to go haywire again. But he doesn't have time to fully focus on them, as he's still trying to fight Trickster and get her out of the way, which eventually, being faster, of course, which seems to be the answer for a lot of Flash issues and villains just be faster than him. Eventually he's able to take her out, though that is until he hears a voice from the swirling vortex of living red matter and living energy, one calling out his very name, Wally. As a hand itself reaches out, of course, Wally instantly thinking, okay, wait, this is Barry. He's been the one throughout the entire run so far, slowly speaking to him, communicating with him, and kind of guiding him back all the way into this moment. So Wally, of course, is instantly trusting of this presence, this voice, and even grabs his hand and helps him out of this energy himself. But no, of course, this is not Barry, but it is actually Thawne himself. Yes, the original Eobard Thawne, who has been in there for decades at this point, now fully corrupted and turned into this hulking, pure red matter energy beast, which is kind of like a common theme with absolute universe villains. Like Joker himself too, as I mentioned earlier, in this universe he is way more than human and a beast. And same thing with Eobard Thawne, the Reverse Flash, or whatever he is going to be called soon. He's no different, in which Wally is the one to actually help him bring him to the land of the living with everybody else. As he even goes on to say, there can only be one, before just tossing Wally back into the same portal he came out of, which we can assume the portal leads into the still point dimension full of the living red energy and matter that we have previously established it to be, in which he is trapped here. The portal closes, he has no way to even know what happened or where he is and how to get out of it until he hears his name once more, and a voice rings out, and this time he is correct. Yes, as it is Barry Allen finally here in whatever red, almost Force Ghost looking thing, or Speed Force Ghost. But very interestingly enough, it's not just him here. No, it's another alien creature behind him as well, which we could only assume that's one of the creatures from what we've seen previously, how their ship landed, and the humans weren't even the first ones to find out about this red dimension of energy and whatever this could mean. But yeah, to nobody's surprise, Barry has been kind of alive. I mean, I don't even know if you would call him alive in a traditional sense, but he's been in here this entire time, meaning Wally is about to finally learn maybe what his powers can do and go on a little bit of a training and power up arc, which I'm really excited to see. And he's going to need all the power he can get if he's going to want to fight against this new monstrous version of the Reverse Flash. But with that being said, that is the end of this video. As always, this was AJ here at The Hero Informer, and thank you for watching.